Hi there, I'm Don. I'm the co-founder of Hamilton Media, and I'm the lead strategist for all of our clients here at Hamilton Media. So today, we're just going into exactly how we create and how we write highly converting abandoned checkout or abandoned cart series. In this video, I'm going to walk you through the exact type of thinking that you need to have when creating an abandoned cart or an abandoned checkout type series, the types of content that you might want to put in your own series, the Klaviyo logic, the delays, the timers, the filters. And then we're going to go through examples how to exactly implement this info into your own abandoned cart or abandoned checkout series for your own brand. So we are going to cover the end-to-end of actually building one for your own brand. So there's going to be a lot of info we're going to go through inside of this video. So as a bit of an overview, again, we are going to go into how you actually want to think about the abandoned checkout or the abandoned cart series. What actually is the difference between an abandoned checkout and an abandoned cart series, because we see so many brands confusing the two. How many emails you want to include, the primary content focus of each individual email inside of each flow, the timing between these emails. Then we're going to go into the Klaviyo logic, the settings, including smart sending. And if you are a brand that is collecting mobile phone numbers, where to actually put an SMS so that you're not spammy and that you're actually being, valuable when you reach out to your customers. And then how to actually optimize your abandoned checkout and your abandoned cart series over time. We are then going to finish off showing you examples that we've got for clients, and then we're going to do a bit of a roundup. But again, let's start now with exactly how you want to think about your abandoned cart and your abandoned checkout series. Alrighty, so before we even get to building your abandoned cart or your abandoned checkout, we want to first consider the actual difference between the two, right? Because that is going to kind of dictate the way that we treat each flow and the way that we treat each customer. So first, we've got to think about the journey of a customer that is actually purchasing your product, right? We've got to consider the exact position that they are in terms of that purchasing journey. So I've created this little diagram here, and you can see here, right, that with the welcome series, right, you're taking customers throughout this entire journey from interest to consideration to intent to evaluation, all the way up to purchase, right? So the welcome series is quite an encompassing type of flow. With your abandoned cart series, with your abandoned checkout series, we're really focusing in on one aspect of the purchasing journey. So with the abandoned checkout, we're considering, your prospects or your customers, they're actually at the evaluation point of their customer journey, which if you look at this diagram here, it's one step before the purchase. People who are in your abandoned cart are in the intent phase, right? So they're actually shown higher intent, but less intent compared to people who are evaluating and are at that checkout phase. So with the abandoned checkout, again, they are one step before purchasing. With the abandoned cart, they are two steps before purchasing because they need to do that little extra click. They need to fill in their details. They need to fill in, the shipping or the delivery address. That shows and demonstrates a lot higher propensity to purchase. So going back here, again, just to reiterate, abandoned cart, two steps before the purchase. An abandoned cart, this means that customers might have added items to the cart. They didn't proceed to checkout. Maybe they just got distracted on the way to purchasing, or maybe they were actually just browsing and they were curious. Abandoned checkout, on the other hand, this is one step before the purchase. So an abandoned checkout, this is when customers have filled in their details. They might have selected shipping. They might have added their delivery address. They might have even input their card details, but they just didn't click purchase. They didn't make the payment. So understanding this key distinction, this is going to dictate how you treat each flow. Because abandoned cart, again, it's two steps before the purchase. These customers have shown less potential to purchase. Because abandoned checkout is one step before the purchase, these customers have shown a much more serious intent to buy. So again, just to really, explain it like you're five, right? People that have abandoned checkout, they're further down the purchase journey, they need less convincing to purchase, right? People that have abandoned the cart, they're further away from purchasing compared to the people that are in the abandoned checkout. And this means that they might actually need more convincing before they purchase. So with that key distinction in mind, let's quickly go into how many emails to include. Okay, so how many emails do you actually include in your abandoned cart or your abandoned checkout? So again, you want to remember where these customers are in terms of their purchasing journey. So because they're pretty far down the journey, if you look at it over here, if they're in abandoned cart or if they're in abandoned checkout, they're pretty far down, right? So they're either intent or they're in evaluation already. So this means that because of their high propensity to buy, we should be sending them at least a couple of emails because, again, they've demonstrated interest in actually purchasing. So we can send them reminders about that. But again, because we're not taking them through the entire journey from interest to consideration to intent to evaluation all the way down to purchase, as you would the welcome series, this flow or the abandoned checkout and the abandoned cart flows would typically be a little bit lower. So 3 to 5 emails, too few, you might not actually be fully engaging your potential customer. But if you do too many, then you actually risk annoying your customers. So again, these sequences, they're actually just designed to remind customers to complete their purchase. And so overall, less emails are actually going to be needed. Alrighty, so let's actually get to the fun stuff of writing and creating your abandoned cart and your abandoned checkout series. But again, we want to consider where people are in the purchasing journey. And I'm going to bring this up a lot throughout this entire video because it really does dictate pretty much everything that you do within these flows, from the timing, from the logic, from even the content that you put inside. So the information needed for both of these flows, just due to the nature of it and due to where your customers are in the purchasing journey, it is going to be very similar, but the order that you send it at, it might be a little bit different. So just to start off with the abandoned checkout, again, this is one step before purchase. So for your first email, you want to use a dynamic Klaviyo tag to remind customers of the product or the products that they've actually added to checkout. This is actually going to apply to every single email across both of these flows, right? So Klaviyo, just because of the actual platform and how it connects to stuff like Shopify or Magento or WooCommerce, you can actually dynamically tag the exact product that people have added to the abandoned checkout, also their abandoned cart, and you can show customers that exact product, right? One of the big things that we see whenever we audit brands is that sometimes they have a very general kind of abandoned cart series where it doesn't actually show the customer dynamically what they've added. It just says, hey, you've left something in your cart, come and figure it out, right? We don't want to leave any guesswork. We want to show our customers exactly what they added. And again, you want to show them what they've added using the Klaviyo tags, because if your customer added, like a mug or like a cup to checkout, we want to be ensuring that we're actually sending them that exact product, right? If we show them like a plate or like a bowl or something, your customers are going to be confused. So we want to make sure that it's aligned, but we also want to make sure that we're showing them the exact product that they're interested in. In this first email, you actually just want to remind people also about the shipping time, right? Depending on your brand, this could actually be a really good USP for you. If you're Amazon or something and you say, hey, you left this in your checkout, you can literally get this by 9 p.m. tonight if you order by 12 p.m. That is absolutely something that you want to include. But in general, as consumers, as customers, you want to know when you purchase a product versus when you're actually going to get the product after you hit that buy button. So remember, because of where they are in their customer journey in the abandoned checkout, you don't actually need to push that hard here. All you need to do is just say, hey, this is something that you left in your cart. Here's a reminder to purchase. And that's it. It is very important that in this first email, you do not add a discount. This is another key mistake that we see a lot of brands making so often, is that with their first abandoned checkout, they'll offer, like a 10% off or like a $10 off purchase, or you get free shipping or something. Because of where they are, again, for this first email, you don't need to do any of that, right? Simply reminding them to purchase is often going to be enough to actually get them to purchase. And that way you don't actually ruin your brand's margins. So from there, going into email 2, this is where you want to handle any key objections, right? And this doesn't need to be like a really long, drawn out type of email. This one can be quite simple. So let's just say, for example, you're a ring brand. You can say, hey, if you got your ring sizing wrong, you'll get free resizing within 14 days, right? Or you can even link them to, hey, this is how you measure your ring size at home, right? Handle any key objections here. You also want to remind them about the benefits of your products. Let's say you're a cleaning brand. You can say, hey, these cleaning products are going to make your home sparkling clean, right? Let's say you're a cereal brand. You can say, hey, these are delicious. These are much healthier compared to supermarket options, right? Your Cocoa Pops or your right, your Fruit Loops or something, it's going to be a much better option. From here as well, you want to remind them about the purchase guarantee. So let's say you're a brand, you offer 101 days purchase guarantee. If they're not happy with the products, they can get a full refund. This is where you might want to add that. And another great option, if this applies to your brand, is buy now, pay later options, right? So if your brand, your products are maybe a little bit more expensive, $150, $200, all the way up to a couple grand. If you offer buy now, pay later, such as Afterpay or ZipPay or Klarna, this is a great way to kind of incentivize that purchase. So you want to remind people that you actually do offer these options at checkout. And then you also just want to finally end off with a bit of social proof. Again, this doesn't need to be the core focus of these emails, but you can add it towards the bottom of the email and just let people know that other customers are happy, right? Whether that's with your shipping, whether that's with the product, or whether it's your service. Any of these things are going to be really valuable towards getting people to actually reaching that checkout point. Then from here, email 3, this is where you use urgency. This is where you might want to add a bit of scarcity to create FOMO in the purchase process. Here's also where you typically add a bit more social proof. And again, you want to remember here that the goal is to get people to complete the purchase. So in this email, you can be a little bit more direct response. You can be a little bit more forward because again, people here have clearly shown that they're very interested in your products. They just haven't completed the purchase for whatever reason. So use urgency, use scarcity, use a combination of both, depending on what applies better for your brand. So now going into abandoned cart. And again, remembering that everything here is considering that people are 2 steps away from purchase. They might actually still be thinking about making the purchase because again, they haven't given you your details. They haven't given you your shipping address and they haven't given you their card details yet. So again, use dynamic Klaviyo tags to remind customers of the products that they added to cart. Then you want to remind them about the benefits of your product. And we want to actually do this first. Here, we want to lightly use a bit of urgency. We want to use a little bit of scarcity. Again, we understand that people here might still be considering your product. They might still be in the consideration phase. So the goal here is to actually just get people to return to their cart. We're not necessarily pushing for the purchase just yet. We want people to come back to the cart and come to their own decision because that's how people like to buy. Again, here, do not add a discount, right? People here are really close to buying with their own kind of, through their own consideration process. You don't need to add a discount here. Don't kill your margins. Just don't do it, right? Such a big mistake that we see so many brands doing. From email 2, again, this is where you handle any key objections, right? And here is where you start to remind them about the shipping times. This is where you include your guarantee. Again, your buy now, pay later options. And here is also where you add social proof. Now, email 3, because again, this is abandoned cart, people are still considering. If they make it all the way down to email 3, this is where we do want to get a bit more salesy. We do want to start pushing a bit more for that purchase. So here is where we use urgency, we use scarcity, perhaps a combination of both if it applies well for your brand. And we want to create FOMO in the purchase process. And now the goal from here isn't necessarily to get people to buy, but we do want to get people to proceed to checkout. Again, they're 2 steps away. Now we're going to try and push them to get to 1 step away from purchasing. And so these are the first 3 emails. But again, if you are going to push towards that 4 and 5 email mark, this is actually going to apply for both abandoned checkout and abandoned cart. So the above is what we would consider the absolute essentials to have, right? You need these 3 emails, absolutely. But from here, depending on your brand and what you're actually willing to do as a brand owner or an e-commerce manager, you might want to add emails 4 and 5. So with email 4, this is where you might want to add an incentive or an offer. Because again, these people have clearly demonstrated they're very interested in your products. They just didn't check out for whatever reason. So this is where you might offer them 10% off. You might offer them $10 off. You might give them like a gift with purchase. You might give them free shipping. And you do want to add a little bit of urgency to the offer, right? So you want to say, hey, this offer is something we're giving you because we know you're interested in these products, but this offer isn't going to last like 25 years or something, right? You want to use this offer within the next day, next 48 hours, the next 72 hours. So that's how you add a little bit of urgency to that offer. And you do want to combine this email with a shipping reminder, and you also want to let them know about your buy now, pay later options. Because now, for example, if you're offering 10% off, but then you're also saying that you can pay this off in 8 weeks with Afterpay, now that becomes a much more powerful of a combination to convince someone to purchase. Then from there, email 5, this is where very, very simply, you just want to remind them about the offer that you gave, right? So if you said 72 hours, this offer expires, your 10% code expires, 24 hours before that code expires is when you want to send them this email. So you want to remind them about the offer. You want to show them again, potentially what products they might have added to cart. Maybe you want to show them some other best sellers, or maybe some new arrivals at your store. And again, you want to use scarcity to push the purchase for this one. So this is just a bit of an overview about the type of content that you want to put in your emails. Again, the first 3 emails, absolute necessity, got to have. But then for emails 4 and 5, that's really just going to be up to you, depending on the brand and on how willing you are to actually give discount. Okay, so now just going into the timing between your emails. Again, we want to remember that customers that have abandoned checkout, these guys have got higher intent to buy, right? Compared to people that have just abandoned cart. So the timing on each of these flows, it's going to change slightly depending on the price point of your product. So if your product is what we consider lower ticket, $200 or below, you'd want to be a little bit faster. But if your products are over $200, all the way up to thousands of dollars, then you want to extend the timing between each email. Another thing to consider is the more impulse the purchase or whatever your product is, the faster the timing. So something, an example of that might be fashion. It might be like accessories, or it could be just something like a fidget spinner or something, right? Like you don't need a whole lot of thinking if you're going to buy those items. But the more education, the more consideration that customers need in order to purchase from you, the longer your delays should be. So for example, if again, you're using cleaning products, you might actually need to educate your customers about the ingredients inside of it or why it's better than competitors. Or if you're selling like cereal, you might need to do a comparison between your competitors. So again, consider your exact product once you start doing the timing for your flows. So for your abandoned checkout, you want your first email to be sent within a shorter time frame. Again, remember, abandoned checkout, one step before purchase, high propensity to buy. We want to act on that impulse a little bit quicker. So send in a shorter time frame, anywhere from 15 minutes if your product is really cheap, or if it's a very impulse type purchase, all the way up to 4 hours, depending on the price point or the type of product that you have. The second email, send this one after 1 to 2 days. And then the third email, send this after 2 to 3 days. Your abandoned cart, for your first email, again, remembering that the abandoned cart is 2 steps before purchase, you want to increase the delay a little bit here. So send your first email anywhere from 2 hours all the way up to 4 hours. With the second email, send it after 2 to 3 days. And then with the third email, send it between 2 and 4 days after the second email. Again, just factoring in the type of product that you have. If you do decide to have emails 4 and 5, we'd recommend sending this offer relatively quickly to keep the intent to purchase quite high. So let's say your third email, you send that after 2 days. Then if they don't buy after that email, then you want to send your offer typically within 1 to 2 days after they get this third email, right? Just reminding them that their cart is about to expire. And then for the fifth email, you want to send this email 24 hours before your offer expires, right? So if you say in this fourth email, you give them 10% off their next purchase, and you give them 48 hours, then you want to send this fifth email after 1 day after your fourth email. Or if in this fourth email, when you give them, $10 off or free shipping or something, and you say you have 72 hours to take advantage of this offer, then you want to send this email 2 days after this email. So with this one, again, because the fifth email is pretty much always just going to be an incentive reminder, just send it 1 day before the purchase, and you'll actually find that this email will often honestly perform better than this fourth email. So in general, you want your first 3 emails to kind of be delivered within a week. And that's kind of just to ensure that your brand stays top of mind. And then your 4th and your 5th email, that can be sent from the 2nd week onwards. So just some good guidelines for you to follow there. So now kind of deep diving into the Klaviyo logic and the settings that you might want to include. So for this one, because the abandoned checkout, because the abandoned cart are crucial flows, you want to ensure that your smart sending is turned off. You will miss so many sales just from not reminding people that they have stuff in their cart that they want to purchase. So just leave this off across basically every flow, every email in this flow. Where we kind of get a bit more interesting is actually going to be around the filters, and I'll deep dive more into this once I go through some examples. But basically, with the filters you want to include, I would say there's 2 that are absolutely necessary for every flow, and then 2 which are a bit more optional, depending on you, depending on your brand, and depending on your preferences. So with the first filter that we absolutely have to include, you want to make sure that people have placed order 0 times since starting this flow. And what this does is this ensures that once someone has purchased, they'll be filtered out of the flow and they won't receive any other emails in the flow. Particularly if you're a brand and you include something like, your email 4, your email 5, where you give an incentive. If your customer actually purchases from, let's say, the 3rd abandoned cart or abandoned checkout email and you don't have this flow, then they're going to receive a 10% discount the next day. And they're going to be very annoyed about that, right? So you want to make sure that you have this set up just to ensure that people aren't receiving additional emails once they come into this flow. The next crucial one is checkout started 0 times since starting this flow. And this prevents people from looping in this flow. So let's just say, for example, someone receives an abandoned cart flow, right? They receive an email and it reminds them that they've got a mug in their cart, right? But what if they go back to your website and now they actually add plates to their cart? You don't want to send them another email here because that's actually just going to frustrate customers. This is just going to kind of, get to that point where we're getting a bit spammy. So you don't want to be sending people multiple abandoned checkout emails or abandoned cart emails. And for this one as well, checkout started, or this might be add to cart, just depends obviously on what you've got. So yeah, this filter prevents that from happening. And now, again, these 2 absolutely crucial. These are optional filters. This is something that we have depending on the client, depending on the preferences of the owner. So just consider these ones and see if you want to add these to your own flows yourself. So another one is has not been in this flow in the last X days. So you might want to use 7 days, you might want to use 14 days. Again, it's really just going to depend on you. So this prevents people from receiving multiple reminder emails within a set time frame. So again, if someone receives this flow, they will be excluded from this flow if they add something again to their checkout in the next 7, 14, 21 days, whatever you decide. And then the last optional filter is receive email from flows, abandoned checkout or cart since starting this flow. So because we have abandoned cart and now we also have abandoned checkout, let's just say, build up a random scenario. Someone has added their mug to cart, they received the email, and now they add that mug to checkout. They give you the details, but then they abandon the checkout. Depending on you, depending on your preferences, you might actually want people to be excluded from either flow. So if they've received an abandoned checkout email, then they should no longer receive abandoned cart emails. But vice versa, if they've received abandoned cart emails, maybe you don't want them to receive abandoned checkout emails. So setting up this filter makes sure that your customers will only receive emails from either one of the flows. And again, you might prefer this just to prevent spamming, but some other brand owners tend to be a little bit more aggressive with their sales approach. And so they want to ensure that they speak to customers at every point of the journey. Okay, so just taking a bit of a break here from all of the content because we've been just absolutely hammering out how to build your actual abandoned cart series. But if you are a brand owner, you're doing over 60K a month with your brand, you're watching this, you've gone through the content, the timing, the settings of the email. Maybe this is a bit confusing or too time consuming to do yourself. Or maybe you just don't have the capacity or literally just the in-house talent to do this. Visit our website, hamiltonemails.co, or you can just follow the link in the video description We average 19x client ROI, and our strategies so far in 2023 have generated well over $2 million in revenue for our clients. So we completely handle your end-to-end email marketing for you, including your abandoned cart, including your abandoned checkout series, but also all your other flows, handle your campaigns, your deliverability, your segments. All you kind of have to do is just approve marketing material before it goes live. So now that that's out of the way, let's actually get into how to start optimizing your abandoned cart, your abandoned checkout series, just to get the maximum amount of profit for your brand. Okay, so how do you start optimizing your abandoned checkout or your abandoned cart series over time? So once you've been running your abandoned cart or your abandoned checkout for at least 4 weeks, typically we recommend at least 4 to 8 weeks. This is when you're going to have enough data to be able to make informed, educated decisions on how to optimize your abandoned series. So in this, we are going to go through the why, the when, the how, and the key metrics that you want to actually focus on before you start optimizing your abandoned cart series. So why do you want to optimize your abandoned cart, or again, honestly, just any flows in general? And that's because despite what many agencies think, flows, they really aren't just set it and forget it, right? Optimizing your flows, this is how you slowly but surely increase your email revenue. And just to put it into perspective here, right? If you're a brand, you're doing, let's say 100K a month, right? Every 1% of email revenue brought in by your flows is going to be an additional 1K per month. And now if you optimize your flows by, let's say, 5% every single month, that's now 5K a month. And over the course of a year, you are now adding 60 grand of additional revenue to your bottom line, right? So your abandoned checkout, your abandoned cart, they're always going to be pretty much like your top 3 or your top 2 highest revenue generating flows. So all optimizations here, they're going to be very, very high leverage. So when do you actually want to start optimizing? Right, once your abandoned cart or your abandoned checkout, they have over 1,000 successful deliveries, or you've been running it for at least 4 weeks, this is when you can start optimizing. And so you want to be making optimizations at least once every month. And this is just to make sure that your abandoned checkout, your abandoned carts are performing healthily. Because even if you don't make any changes to it now, and it's performing really well, 3 months, 4 months, 5 months down the line, it might just take a dip in performance. And that just means you need to refresh the content. So how do you actually properly optimize your abandoned checkout or your abandoned cart series? And so a couple ways to do this, but the easiest is just always going to be A/B tests. And with your A/B tests, just like any other A/B test you want to do, you want to change one thing at a time. So the key things and the really big needle movers that you want to test is sending times. This is probably like the easiest and the highest leverage one that we do, but especially with abandoned cart, with abandoned checkout, with the timing being so sensitive or when you send out these emails, you might want to test something like 1 day versus 2 days. Or you might want to send out something like 15 minutes versus 4 hours, right? Do the tests yourself. And I'll show you an example of how we did tests for clients. But you want to run these tests for an extended period of time just so you can get definitive data to see which one is actually going to perform better. From there, you can do subject lines, you can do preview texts, you can do the order of content that you send. So for example, if you're sending social proof in the second or third email, but you want to try switch it up, maybe try send that out in the first email, right, instead. Or if you're going to include content such as, like handling any key objections, instead of putting it in the second and third email or not having it at all, maybe you want to bring that up and put it in the first email or switch it up to be the second and third email instead. So with this one, you can extend your flow with emails. Again, with this one, if you want to add that offer for the 4th and 5th email, you can do that at any point. But again, we wouldn't recommend going below 3 emails really in any event. So in that case, if you have emails that are underperforming, you actually just want to swap out the content or maybe change the order of content to see what's going to work better for you. So with this one then, the key metrics that you actually want to focus on is going to be 3 things, which is your open rate, your click-through rate, and your placed order rate. And so you want to remember here, right, that your first email, again, is always going to perform the best. So here we are expecting the strongest metrics. So for your first email, this is exactly what you're going to be expecting. I would say around 60% or higher open rate. For your click-through rate, again, because we are dynamically sending the exact product that your customers have added to cart or added to checkout, you would be expecting about a 6% click-through rate here. And then you'd be expecting about a placed order rate of 4% or higher. And so with abandoned cart and abandoned checkout, this is actually a very unique flow where the first and the last emails tend to have the best performance. Your second email typically has the dip in performance. But again, first email is always going to perform the best. So for your second and for your third email, hygiene healthy standards across these emails would be higher than 50% or plus open rate. Your click-through rate would be at about 3% or higher, and then your place order rate should be at about 2% or higher. So key to note here that your click-through rate is always pretty much going to be higher than your order rate. Okay, so from here, if any email actually performs under these metrics, again, we don't want to be cutting emails from the abandoned cart because typically that's actually just going to be worse overall for your brand. So what you do want to do instead is you might want to swap content, you might want to add content, or potentially if you're a brand and you're only running 3 emails in your abandoned cart or your abandoned checkout series, then potentially if they haven't ordered by the end of that flow, then you can introduce offers such as % off or a flat dollar value off, or like free shipping, or maybe even like a gift with purchase. Alrighty, so now let's actually break down some examples that we created for a couple clients. I'm going to show you guys both an abandoned checkout and an abandoned cart. And then I'm also going to show you a version of abandoned cart that we have that actually does give an incentive towards the end. So starting first with the checkout started. So just starting from the top here, right? So obviously this is going to be a Shopify store. And you can see here that this is the checkout started flow trigger. And then with the trigger setup, this is exactly what it looks like, right? So again, what someone has done or not done, they've placed an order 0 times since starting this flow. And then very importantly as well, checkout started 0 times since starting this flow. So again, this just prevents them from getting looped over and over and over again within this flow. From here, we've then actually set up an A/B test, testing the timing for this brand. So because this brand, it is a supplement brand and they require a little bit more education on the product, we've actually split tested 2 hours versus 4 hours. So initially we set up an A/B test for this brand, testing 15 minutes versus 2 hours. The 2 hour variation won, and now we're actually just testing 2 hours versus 4 hours. So to set this up for yourself, all you got to do is set up a conditional split, a random sample, and then you just want to include 50% of people. So they just get filtered into both of these emails. So the content in both of these emails is actually exactly the same. Again, the only difference is that this one sends in 2 hours, and then this one sends in 4 hours. So for these ones, again, note the subject lines for these are just super simple, right? You left these in your cart. If you want, you can also A/B test the subject line, showing people the exact product by using a dynamic Klaviyo tag in these. But for this one, we just decided to keep it simple and just say, hey, you left these in your cart. Nice and straightforward, lets people know exactly what the email is about. Again, for this one, the smart sending is off. Again, we always recommend to have UTM tracking on, but just because I cloned this into a test account, none of these settings are actually on. But smart sending always off on every single email in the abandoned cart series. From there, because, this is abandoned checkout. So from there, again, because this is abandoned checkout, we're going to be quite quick with the emails that we send out. So right after 1 day, we're going to go to your dog will feel amazing, right? And this is going to be, again, we're pushing people, we're sending them in the email, we're saying, this is the products that you added to your checkout, but also your dog will feel amazing. We're just going to remind them about the actual benefits of the products that they've added to their cart. And here we also have a bit of social proof. And then after 2 days, this is where we just let people know that their cart is about to expire. So this is where we add a little bit of urgency. Again, this is where we sort of remind people about their products. We remind them about checkout options. This is where we do buy now, pay later. This is where we add social proof. But again, this is just really designed to show you the type of structure that we have in an abandoned checkout. From here, this one is an abandoned cart. So just note on this one, this is our test account. So to actually create an add to cart, we need to have this connected to a live account with real data. So your Shopify store, this will actually be add to cart. If you are using Shopify though, you will need to set this up separately. And I'll link the Klaviyo guide in the description below of how to actually set up the proper added to cart metric and the trigger for your own account. It's very simple. It'll only take you about 10-15 minutes. But typically, if you're a brand that we would work with doing 60K a month or more, you would already have this set up. And if you don't, then you're missing out on a lot of crucial data, and we can set that up for you. But again, flow filters here. So you can see here, placed order 0 times since starting this flow, checkout started 0 times since starting this flow, and added to cart 0 times since starting this flow. So we set up this filter here because this brand in particular, they didn't want people to receive both added to cart and abandoned checkout. They only wanted them to receive one or the other, which is why we set up these filters here. And again, another A/B test for this brand. We're just testing sending the email 2 hours versus testing the email 4 hours afterwards. From here, this is where it gets a little bit interesting and where we actually decided to split up the SMS and the email notification. So for this one, again, if you are a brand and you are collecting mobile phone numbers, this is an extremely high leverage SMS. We tend to be quite sparing with SMS because obviously texting someone is a lot more personal compared to emailing someone. Both very, very personalized, but compare it to actually like calling up your mate or like sending your mate a text message. The text message is always going to be a lot more personalized. So we're a lot more careful with how we use this, and we want to be very, very careful and mindful that we're not overdoing it. So for this brand, we've only set up the one SMS, and this just says, hey, enjoy free delivery in your region, return to your cart. And we also just remind them about the exact product that we send them inside. So SMS, the copy is much shorter because obviously it's a text message, but you still want to reiterate what the benefits are. You want to remind them what the product is, and you want to let them know exactly where to go to complete their checkout. So from here, right, because we send this after 1 day, we've actually also set up an additional day until the next email. So in terms of the actual flow, this would then be 2 days from the first email before your customers receive the second email. So from here, again, your dog will feel amazing. This is where we really push the benefits. This is where we push the social proof. This is where we include before and afters. We include testimonials. And we also remind people that they're going to receive their products in X amount of time. And again, in every single one of these emails, we are showing them using dynamic Klaviyo tags, the exact product that they added to cart. And then from here, what we've done, again, keeping in mind that this is 2 days. After 4 days, this is where we send people an email and we say your cart is about to expire. So again, be mindful here that because this is abandoned cart and they are 2 steps away from purchase, we're actually extending the flow a little bit just to make sure that we stay top of mind, but also reminding people that they have added a product to a cart and they're interested in the purchase. And then just for a different brand here, I want to show you a different structure of a checkout started that we've got. So this is actually abandoned cart, but we made this, but I don't have add to cart metric set up on this account. So this is just checkout started. So just ignore this one here and pretend that's add to cart. So for this one, for this brand, again, we made this actually quite quick, and that's due to the nature of the product. So this brand, I believe, is actually a accessories brand. I believe they sell sunglasses. So we made this one relatively quick just to kind of act on that impulse a little bit quicker. From there, again, we send the second email after 1 day. We'll just remind them that their card is about to expire. And then from here, again, just really pushing that urgency. We say in 24 hours, your card is about to expire. Now from here, this is where it gets a little bit more interesting, which is why I wanted to show you guys this example. But from here, what we've actually done is we've set up a conditional split Well, basically, if someone has received this offer within the last 60 days, we don't send it to them again. So this conditional split, very simple. We just say received email with an email equals this email here. And then if they've received it once in the last 60 days, we don't actually send it to them, right? So again, we're only giving this offer once every 60 days or so. From there, right, from here, this is actually old. This says 5 days, but you would want to send this out relatively quickly. So I'm going to change that over to 1 day. And then you want to say, good news, here's 10% off of your cart. Now here you can either choose to send them the same product that they added to cart, or you can also include your best sellers or maybe like, arrivals, because if they are in the abandoned cart, again, they're still considering. So maybe they added, the black sunnies to the cart, and then they realize they don't actually really want black sunnies. So in this email, you might want to show them the black sunnies, but then towards the end of the email, you might want to show them, your clear frames, or you might want to show them regular optics, or you might want to show them different products or different best-selling styles and new arrivals that you might have for your brand. Again, this is brand specific, but it's more to show you the kind of thinking so you can apply it to your own brand. From there, this one was a 48-hour offer. So after 1 day, we let them know that these are the final hours to enjoy 10% off. And then we can also say, in 24 hours, your offer expires. So for this brand, this is something that you can do, but for this brand in particular, because it's a very personalized brand, what they wanted to do was after 5 days, they wanted to set up a plain text email, send it out to people that still haven't purchased, and they just wanted to say what happened, right? Is it like you didn't like the sunglasses, or was it you weren't sure if it was going to fit with your style? Was it not going to, go with your aesthetic? So this is a very research-oriented email. Not a lot of brands actually want to do this or like doing this, but it is good practice to know that you can do something like this, because the replies that you receive to this email, one, it's actually going to give you a bit more information as a brand owner to understand what other objections that your customers might have before purchasing. And also, if people reply to your emails, that's actually just going to be great for your deliverability. So an email like this, we sometimes set it up. Very often we don't, but it really does depend on the brand, versus if you're maybe the face of your brand, then you might want to do this. If people purchase your brand because of who you are, you might want to do an email like this. But if you want to stay somewhat separate from your brand, then you might want to skip out on this one. But again, just a very good example to show you guys. So these are just a couple examples of abandoned cart series that we have built for clients. Again, abandoned checkout. To note here that all of the timing tends to be a lot quicker in between emails, versus the abandoned cart, where the timing tends to be a little bit longer to account that these people are still in consideration. And then again, from here, if you are going to send out an offer in your abandoned series emails, then this is the conditional split that we like to use, just to make sure that we're not sending out 10% discount codes all the time. So this is kind of just completes off the example section. From there, we're just going to do a bit of a round off because we've gone through a lot of content. So let's just dive right into that. Okay, so in this video, we've gone over for like 40 minutes going over, I guess, really everything you need to know when creating your abandoned series. So now let's kind of just do a roundup, and let's just quickly summarize everything that we went through, so it's a lot easier for you to remember. But essentially, number one, you want to think of your abandoned carts, your abandoned checkouts in terms of a customer's purchasing journey, right? Again, the abandoned checkout, it is one step away from purchase, while the abandoned cart is 2 steps away from purchase. Again, we really, really, really want to push this point, because this is just what dictates everything that you do within your abandoned series, down to the timing, the content, and the logic that you use inside. So an abandoned cart, what this means is that the customer has added items, but they haven't proceeded to check out. So typically this means that they actually, they're still browsing, they might still be thinking about the product, maybe they just got distracted. Whereas an abandoned checkout, this means the customer actually gave you details, right? They entered their address, they might have selected shipping, but they just didn't finalize their payment. So 3, depending on your brand, depending on your audience, you want to aim for a sequence of at least 3 to 5 emails. And this is just an effective follow-up without being too intrusive. From here, for abandoned checkout, right, the first email, the type of content you want to put in this one is just a gentle reminder, right? The second one, this is where you're going to tackle objections. This is where you're going to put your social proof. And the third is designed to add urgency. And from here as well, you want to ensure that you're adding, I guess, kind of more salesy type approach, in the sense of this is where you're reminding people about your buy now, pay later type options that they have at checkout. And you're also giving them information about potentially your shipping policy, your return policy, or maybe a guarantee for your brand. For the abandoned cart, again, first email, you're really going to push the product's benefits. You want to provide a little bit of urgency, but do this quite lightly. The second email, this is going to address the objections, provide any social proof. And then the third is just going to create that feeling of FOMO in your customer. Okay, so the actual timing in between emails. So for your abandoned checkout, you want to send the first email within the first 15 minutes all the way up to 4 hours. The second email, you want to do that within 1 to 2 days. The third email, 2 to 3 days after that. And for abandoned cart, you want to extend that a little bit just to account that they might actually still be considering your product. So you want to send that first email within 2 to 4 hours for the first, and then the next email anywhere from 2 to 3 days, and the email after that all the way from 2 to 4 days once you send that final email. And then if you are going to send your fourth and your fifth emails, which are the offer or the incentive and then the incentive reminder, you want to do that quite quickly. So send that first email out with the initial offer anywhere from 1 to 2 days after the third email. And then you want to send that fifth email. Again, it's the incentive reminder. And you just want to do that 24 hours before that incentive expires. From there, in terms of the actual Klaviyo logic and the settings, you want to make sure you turn off smart sending on every email. And then you want to set up trigger filters just to avoid spamming your customers. And you want to customize additional filters based on what your brand's individual needs actually are or what your preferences are. From there, you can include an SMS notification. You want to have this sent out around the same time as the second email. First email will be too fast. Final email, it will be too late. And you just want to be cautious of being spammy with your SMSs. And then finally, you want to start optimizing after 4 weeks or at 1,000 successful deliveries with either your abandoned cart and your abandoned emails. So you want to make changes every 2 to 4 weeks or at least once per month. That's probably a good guideline to follow. And you want to focus on key metrics like open rate, your click-through rate, and your placed order rate. So that is the roundup of everything that we have gone through in this video. And if you're still watching this and you are a brand owner doing over 60K per month in revenue, and you want a guaranteed 7x ROI on your email marketing, but maybe you don't have the time, you don't have the capacity to run emails yourself, or maybe you literally just don't have the in-house skills to do so, book a call with us on our website and see if we can help you. So we completely handle your end-to-end marketing for your emails for you. We handle your deliverability, your segmentations, your weekly campaigns, the optimizations for all of your flows, not just your abandoned cart series or your checkout or your welcome series, but all of them. Visit our website, hamiltonemails.co, or you can also just follow the link in the description. So we do average a 19x client ROI, and our strategies have generated over $2 million in revenue in 2023 so far. So again, just very simply, our website is hamiltonemails.co. Again, here you can see at the top, this is literally exactly everything that we're going to do for you. A couple of reasons why you might want to work with us. And you can see here, this is just a recent client interview that we've done with Scooch and how we actually tripled their email revenue in just under 60 days. These are some other written testimonials that we received from big brands such as Epoche and Uglove. Some recent client results. This is literally the 3-step formula that we apply for every single brand. And these are just recent samples of our work. So we actually have worked in multiple different verticals, from cleaning, from shoes, to sunnies, accessories, to beverages, to high-end luxury type products. And then this is a bit of a case study on a recent project that we got to work on for our client and these emails performed extremely well. So all the way towards the bottom of this page, you'll be able to see our Calendly link. So book a call. There is no pressure to buy. We just actually want to see if we can help you. And if we can, we'll let you know. So thank you so much for watching this video. I hope that you learned a thing or two about building a highly converting abandoned cart or checkout series. If you're not a brand that's doing 60K per month yet, that's completely fine. You just check out our YouTube videos for more free value on how we exactly design flows for our clients, or your deliverability or your pop-ups. And we just have a lot of great content in there to help you boost your email revenue. So again, I'm Don, co-founder of Hamilton, and I hope to speak with you soon.